Hi, and welcome to this video of Dynamics 365 Talk, where I will show you how you can create a case in Dynamics 365 from a tweet with bad sentiment using PowerAutomate. But before we get into it, let me introduce myself. My name is Dion Taylor. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP. And feel free to check out my blog at d365goddess.com. Follow me on Twitter at d365goddess or connect with me on LinkedIn by scanning the QR code that you currently see on your screen. So let's talk about the scenario. I actually created a flow in PowerAutomate where it's listening to the hashtag customer service Dion. So what happens is when that hashtag is mentioned in that tweet, it actually will go to my PowerAutomate. And in PowerAutomate, I have it set up so it actually listens to the sentiment. And if the sentiment of the particular tweet is negative, if it's under a particular value, then what it does is it's actually going to query my CDS and it's going to take a look to see if the person that sent out that tweet, if I have that person in my database. And I'm doing that by looking at the user ID for this particular person. If that person is indeed in my database, I'm going to have the system create a case for that particular contact record. Now, of course, they could not be in my database at all. So what happens then is that the system will first create a contact record, and then it will create a case record, and then associate those together, of course. So let's take a look at what that looks like when we're creating that flow in PowerAutomate. So the first thing that you can do is you can create a new solution or you can just create an existing solution. So I'm just going to go here to my solution is called flows. And then I'm just going to say new, and I want to do a flow, obviously. So I'm going to click on the flow, and that will just open up my flow window. So I'm just going to give it a second to load. And the first thing I will do is actually put in a name for this flow. So this is a negative tweet to case flow. I'm going to call it 2 because I already have one in that I've built previously. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for, obviously, the Twitter connector, because here we go. And I want this flow to trigger when a new tweet is posted. And you can see here it gives you a couple of examples as well what you can do. It's from somebody you can use, right? Just words, but I am going to actually listen for the hashtag that we just discussed, which is that @customer_service Dion. So that's all you have to do at this particular point. Then I'm going to go ahead and direct sentiment. So I'm going to detect sentiment, and you need to have that text analytics connection set up, obviously, which I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. Then it's going to ask me, okay, well, what's the text that you want to analyze? Well, obviously we want to analyze the tweet, right? So we need to get here that tweet text. Again, very simple. So what we're going to do then is I'm going to skip those variables that I mentioned in my post. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually put in a condition because I want to take a look at that score. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do a condition, and I'm going to say the score is less than 1. There we go. So if that is the case, then what I want to do, if that score is indeed less than 1, I want to do something. So I'm going to say, at least that's my definition of it, right? I'm going to say, I'm going to query my database, and I'm going to list the contact records because I want to see if I have a record for this person in my database, for the person who sent out that tweet. And obviously, I want to, I'm actually going to do list, records, but I want to use the list records function from the common data service, the current environments. So again, list records. Okay. So what I want to do here is, again, I want to search obviously for contacts. There we go. And then I want to do a filter query because I want to compare the Twitter user ID, and that is not the handle, by the way, because people can change their handles, right? So that's why I'm using an ID. And I'm going to say the new Twitter user ID. This is actually a field that I created in my Dynamics 365 instance on the contact field. So I'm going to say if that equals, and then I'm going to do here, we want to make sure that we're looking for the user ID from Twitter. And that's this guy. So you got to make sure you're doing this little thingy over here as well. It's one quote. So I'm doing that as well. So the new Twitter user ID field needs to equal whatever the user ID is from the person that's tweeting this stuff out. And then I'm going to set my top count of records that is going to return to 1. So I know that even if I have multiple people, multiple contacts with that Twitter user ID, those are going to be duplicates already. So I just want to say I'm either going to have 1 record or I'm going to have 0 records. And in that particular case, 0 records means there is no contact record in my database for this particular Twitter user. All right, then what I want to do is I want to see what is actually the record count coming out of this list records action. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put in another condition, and I want to see, I'm going to go ahead and here do choose value. And what I can use here is an expression. And I'm going to put in there, right? I called this step list records. I didn't change that. So it's going to say, give me the output of that, the number of records. That's what that's doing. So I'm going to say that is equal to 1. And if that is equal to 1, that means I have a contact record in there. All right, so let's just go ahead and say, what are we going to do if we indeed have a contact record in there, right? Then I only want to create a case. So again, I'm going to say, we're going to create a new record, and I'm going to say common data service. And I want to do the current environments, and then I'm going to create a new record. There we go. And we're just going to create that case because we already have the contact record, right? We just determined that. So I'm going to click on cases, and my case title is going to be my tweet text. Tweet text. Here we go. And then I can even put in a case type. You could put any other fields in here. Obviously, the origin is going to be, this is coming from Twitter, right? So we want to put that on there. And I want to tie this to that contact that we just found in that list record step. So we're going to go ahead and set the customer contacts. The first thing I want to do is I got to make sure that I'm typing in the entity. So this is contacts, and then I'm going to do an open bracket, and then I want to pull in that contact from that step, right? From this list record step. So I'm going to say contact. Here's my list records, and this is the unique identifier that I need. And you see that it now puts that apply to each on there, which is fine. And we need a closing bracket for that, obviously, as well. And that's all we need to do. Again, if you want to update some additional fields, you can do that, but I'm fine with this. So again, what we're doing here is when a new tweet comes in, it looks at the sentiments. If the score is less than 1, then it's going to list my records to see if I have a contact in my system. If I do, then I'm going to create a new case record. Now, if I don't, I need to do another step first. I first need to create a contact record, and then I need to create a case record. So let's do add an action. And again, common, data, I cannot type today, service. And again, we constantly want to use this current environment. We're going to create a new record. And I'm just going to go ahead and rename this real quick. Create a new record. This is going to be my contact. And again, we're going to do a contact. So let's just type in a contacts entity. Here we go. Now, the thing, let me just go ahead and, the thing with Twitter is that, oops, it is actually, there is a name in there. I'm going to actually go ahead and find that. Oops, let me just go ahead and move this to the side. Now, there is a name of the user in here, but unfortunately, what it actually contains is the first name and the last name. So I can't break it out. I can't say, put the first name of the Twitter user here, and then right here, and then put the last name in the last name field. So what I need to do is I need to grab that value from Twitter, the first name and last name, and I need to break those out. I need to split those into a first name and a last name. So I'm going to move back up here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that logic right over here underneath the text sentiment. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually initialize a variable. Here we go. And this is actually where we're going to get that Twitter name. So we're going to go initialize the variable. And I'm going to call this Twitter name, and this is going to be string value. And what I want in here is obviously that Twitter name, right? The name of the user. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a name. This is again going to be first name space last name. So now I have that, but now I need to break that up. So again, I'm going to initialize a variable. Initialize variable. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going, you can call this obviously whatever you want. I'm going to call this first. It's not just the first name. We're splitting up both, but whatever, right? I'm going to put in here, this is going to be an array. And the value of this is actually going to be an expression. So I'm going to start with, it's going to be split. And I want to split the variable, and the name of the variable I want to split is right over here. Probably have to type this in again now. Yeah. All right, let's try this again. So I'm going to say this is a split, and I want to split. Let me just try that again. Split variable, and I want to split the variable that is called Twitter name. And now I have to put a comma in there, and then as you can see, it's asking me, well, what's the separator? Well, I know there is a space in between them, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do this guy, and then I'm going to do a space, and that's all that I have to do. So this is what I want to put in there. So now I'm going to split both of those guys. All right, great. So we did that. Now let's scroll down again where we were earlier. And here's our condition, list records, right? And this is where we're creating that contact. So now we can use those variables that we just set up there. So I'm first going to go to here at my first name. And then again, I'm going to set up a variable for that. So I'm going to click on an expression, not a variable for that. I'm going to set an expression up for that. So I'm going to type in variables, and that's coming from that first, right? That we just, that variable that we have there. And what I want to do here is I want to get the first value that is going to be returning, and that is 0. That's just the way it is. So that's the first name. So I'm going to say, okay. Of course, it's not liking it now. There we go. And for last name, that's the second one that it's going to grab. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put in an expression, and I can even just go ahead and copy this. Let me just copy this. And again, let me go back to last name. Again, we're going to do an expression, and that's going to be 1. So again, I'm going to hit OK. And that is it. Now we created that contact, first name and last name. You probably at this point want to put some data in those newly created, in the newly created field that I have, that I just talked to you about. That is the user ID in that user ID field. So let's scroll down here, all the way down. And here you can see I have my Twitter user ID field. So I'm just going to go ahead and look for user ID. And it's coming from Twitter. And then you could also put in a Twitter handle if you wanted to do that. And I believe that is the user name. So we have the Twitter handle and the user ID. And that's all that we're going to put in that contact record. And of course, if you want to put additional stuff in there, you can. Now, I already set this create new record, that case. I already set that up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy this to my clipboard, and I'm going to click add an action. I'm going to go to my clipboard, and I'm going to create that new record. Now, I have to make a slight change to that, obviously. Come on. Apparently, it's not liking something here, so let's just go ahead and do that manually. Again, we're going to add an action. We're going to go ahead and go to common data service current environments, and we're going to create a new record. This is where we're going to create that case. There we go. Case title, we're going to use the tweet text. Here we go. We could put in a case type here. We could put in an origin here, which is Twitter. And then obviously we need to tie this to that contact that we just created. So I'm going to, again, contact, open bracket, and then I'm looking for that contact. And we want to make sure that we grab it from here, right? Create new record contact, that guy. So let me just get the unique identifier of that contact, make sure create new contacts, I'm in the right space. Yep. And then we want a closing bracket here as well. And that is all we have to do. And that is your flow. So let's just go ahead and save this. And what I'm going to do then is actually, as soon as this is saved, I'm going to send a tweet. So let's see here. Have you heard yet about the horrible service at Customer Service Dion? It's really bad. And let me just go ahead and tweet that out. Now, usually it does take a couple of minutes before it picks that up, but let's take a look here. I'm just going to go ahead and let's just refresh our runs here. And here we have a failure, so let's take a look at that. Looks like the list records action. Oops. Oh, it looks like the single quote over here at the end, it did not save that for whatever reason. So let me just go ahead and edit that. Let's go back to that condition. List records, advanced options. Oh, and it's true, I forgot to put a single quote at the end. So let's just go ahead and save that. And let us now test it. All right, let me just hit that test button here. We're going to use that previous tweet that was sent out to take a look at this. And it looks like it ran successfully. So let's take a look. It actually posted, saw that the new tweet was posted. It detected sentiment. Oops, here's our tweet, right? It was listening for that customer service young. Then it was detecting some sentiments. The output was zeros, whatever that was. Then it was looking for, right? It was initializing that Twitter name. The total name was tweets flow. Then it actually was breaking that out in the first name tweets, last name flow. And then we have our condition. Did I actually have a contact record for that person in my database already? Yes, I did. Right? Because it says, hey, is there a contact in there? Yes. And then, oh, actually, it didn't. Sorry. I was actually looking at this. It was still looking at the sentiments. It was bad sentiments. Therefore, go query my contacts in my database. Do I have a contact in my database? I do not. So first create a new contact record, right? Here's the first name, there's the last name, and then create a case record in Dynamics 365 in my CDS. So let's take a look at those records lastly. And let's go here to my advanced find. Oops, that's the wrong one. So let me pull up here my advanced find for cases that were created today. You can see here cases created today. Let me take a look at the results for that. And here it is. So let's take a look here. We can see here that name of the case. Have you heard yet about the horrible search? That's that tweet, right? The Twitter handle is my flow tweets. We have here the Twitter user ID is this number over here. And then it's coming from Twitter. Here's my Twitter customer. That's that contact record that it created also today. Again, I also have here my contacts that were created today. And that is that contact record that we just mentioned over here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and make sure to check back again next week for yet another video. Have a great week, you guys, and stay safe.